Good evening, and welcome to a special unfiltered wrestling podcast edition where me, Tim, talks about the Evolution pay-per-view we've just had. And I'll go through all the matches first of all, and then I'll go through my opinions about the whole card itself. So let's start off first of all with the IC title between Bayley, Becky, and Lyra Valkyria. And I'm just going to go on record and say this is probably the best match of the card and probably one of the best matches of the year. All three women brought it and did really well throughout, managing to tell a story very quickly and showing how good they really are. There were multiple amounts of finishes, or should I say false finishes, and it was great paced throughout, with every woman getting at least one finisher off, which doesn't lead to the final pinfall, but it made everybody look strong. I mean, Becky came away with the victory after a very clever pinning move, jumped across and almost hooked the hand, and then managed to get a pinfall in. It was really clever, but throughout, all three women warranted their time in the ring. And if I'm honest, if this main evented, I wouldn't have been surprised. Next up was the women's NXT title, and I have to be honest, I was a little bit surprised. I don't watch a lot of NXT. I knew who Jordynne Grace was, and I knew that JCJ had beaten Stephanie Vaquer for the title before, but I wasn't expecting a great amount. And to be honest, I was blown away. Both women absolutely gave it all. As a special showcase for Jordynne Grace, who, while she didn't win, definitely looked the stronger of the two. She is such a physical specimen and really does such a great job. I'm pleased that she managed to get some quality time over this. But the finish was Blake Monroe turning on Jordynne Grace, which again I was a little bit surprised, but okay, should have known it was coming. Blake Monroe is known for her time as in AEW and turning on friends, so it doesn't surprise too much. But the finish then led to JCJ's finisher, and she pinned. Now, at the end, you could see Jordynne Grace was covered in blood. Whether that was an accident, I will assume so, because it came from around about her nose area. But I think that helped to give the match a lot of importance. It's also made me think, I want to watch NXT to see where they go with this women's division. And I think, if anything else, that's a good point. A definite highlight for me. So yeah, JCJ defends the belt and does such a great job with it. Next up was the 4-way tag team match. And wow. All 8 women did a great job. Absolutely great job. I've got on my notes here to see when the Kabuki Warriors came out as a pair, I was cheering. I love these two. I think they're a great tag team. I want to see them hold the belts again. So I think that would be a good story down there. It's also worth mentioning, as Alexa Bliss came out, I saw Charlotte smile. I don't know whether it was a break of character, but she's come out and she's really embraced it. I think this is a really good example of how they're slowly starting to rehab Charlotte. I think one of two ways will be is she and Alexa will become a really strong tag team and good friends, or Charlotte will at some point stab her in the back. I believe that's a possibility, but she got quite big pops when she got a hot tag. She was cheering, she was laughing, she looked really good, and the crowd really supported her. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration. Ironically enough though, the power bomb by Raquel onto Alexa Bliss to everybody outside before suddenly Tijuana bombing Saruka. led to them defending their titles. I've got a couple of things. Sol Ruka is a fantastic wrestler. I do think she could, I think a couple more months in NXT and then she'll be ready for a trip up there. Her Soul Snatcher finisher, which she delivered onto Charlotte at one point, was great. But she's the NXT North American champion. There were other wrestlers that could have ate the pin, so I'm also a little bit confused about that one. I think that one could have done with a little bit more planning out. Next up was a match I was really worried about, and that was Tiffany and Trish. And I was surprised. That was actually quite a good, solid match. Trish didn't look like she'd missed that much. There was little small moments, but overall I think it was a really solid match. Tiffany was the right opponent. I think there was definitely some stiff chops going on, and my God, Tiffany does such a great snap suplex. Getting someone over so quickly did such a good job. Couple of knee blocks with such as the PME doing that. What I do need to say, Tiffany won with a prettiest moonsault ever, but she caught Trish right on the face, and it looked like she'd mispositioned it, where she was supposed to land on the chest, but she catches her on the face, and it looks like Trish had actually caught that. She didn't look too impressed with it at the end. A standing ovation at the end for Trish after Tiffany had rolled out and gave Trish her moment. So it was a really solid match. The next match on the card was probably the most disappointing, and that was the no hold bars match between Jade and Naomi. And maybe it's the reason, and we'll talk about it later, what happened. There just seemed to be something missing with this. I was expecting it to be a lot more brutal, and it just wasn't. It didn't reach those heights. Some good spots, but it still didn't feel like it was a great match. What I will say is the Jaded through the table looked good, and Jade won that match, and I thought that was very important because that actually led on to something later on the line, and maybe we will get a Jade Tiffany match at SummerSlam, which may or may not work, but we'll come on to that in a minute. The next up was the Battle Royal. I don't know what I can say. Just a solid Battle Royal. The Kalani Jordan spot where she gets thrown out of the ring, doesn't hit the ground, but then does a handstand to get back into the ring was very clever. It's another one of those Kofi Kingston spots that will get replayed constantly. She's got a lot of talent. I'm expecting a lot from her. But let's go on to the final four, which was Stephanie Valkyrie, Nikki Bella, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend. Lash Legend looked great throughout this. She's another one that's got a lot of future going for her. I'm looking forward to seeing where she goes with this. But the final finish was Stephanie Valkyrie and Lash Legend, and Stephanie hit two Devil's Kisses on Lash and Chelsea Green earlier on in the match to win the match, and she will have a title shot at Clash in Paris. That set that up really nicely, and that's definitely going to be something that's worth watching. Which brings us on to the main event. Io versus Rhea. Now this match was going to be nothing short of brilliant. I'm not even going to lie about it. They were fantastic. They had us going all the way through. A slow build up to start with before we started hitting move upon counter upon counter. A big story being told that Rhea just could not finish off Io. And I have to say, I wasn't sure about the ref bump at first, especially bearing in mind she got hit pretty hard with that missile drop kick. But what happened afterwards was great. When they managed to fight out to the back and Io jumps off a 20-foot, we'll call it staging area, onto Rhea, it looks great. But you can also see Io catches her knee on that concrete, and it looked like she was in quite a lot of pain. To be quite honest, both women looked like they were absolutely shattered. When Rhea hits a riptide and actually looks like she's finally pinned Io for there to be no referee count, it was unreal. I think that was a great story point. She loses the plot. She starts concentrating. That was great. Another kick out from over the moonsault that Rhea did, which has finished her off so many times, also sent the crowd crazy. There was a lot of this is awesome chants throughout this. There's a Spanish fly. Is there anything these women cannot do? A Spanish fly which completely wipes them both out, while Naomi then comes down and cashes in. She hits Io with the briefcase. She charges Rhea out of the ring, and then she split-legged moonsaults Io for the belt. This was an unexpected ending. It really caught me, and I have to say I was really pleased with what they managed to do. This is by far some of the best work these women have ever done, and I'm actually pleased for Naomi. However, she's gone to Raw now. She's a Raw Women's Champion, so how's that going to work? I am curious about that. So, overall, matches were great. What I will break down though, there were a couple of points where I was a little bit shocked. Firstly, the card was over 3 hours, which, trust me, is really nice for the women, but it's a 3-hour pay-per-view. I think they could have condensed it in a little bit, could have got a little bit more. There's a lot of talk before the event about Paige being there, and I think maybe if she turns up on Raw tomorrow night, or tonight, at the time we've released this, they're excellent. But I think it felt like everybody was waiting for Paige to turn up, and she didn't, and maybe that's why it felt a little bit flat at the end. Again, Naomi winning the title, excellent. We've got a lot of stories coming out of this. As I said, there's a point where Charlotte actually saves Alexa, and the look on Alexa for the save is fantastic. So we've got a story going there. There is a lot of stories coming out of this. What they do with Stephanie Vaquer for the next 6 weeks will be interesting, because we've got to get past SummerSlam. Where do we go at that point? How long is Naomi going to hold the championship for? These are all points that are worth mentioning. Okay, so that's my review about Evolution. Leave a comment if you disagree with me. I'm quite happy about that. Please keep watching our videos, and we'll see you soon. Thank you very much.